So now we're going to do a few examples of the multiplicative inverse. Pause the video. Okay, so let me first tell you what each question asks. So from here to here, it's asking what is the fraction that you multiply by in order to get 1. So it's essentially asking you what is the multiplicative inverse, because that's what the multiplicative inverse is. Multiplicative inverse is the fraction which you multiply whatever fraction you're given in order to get a result of 1. So that would be 1, 2. So these first 3 examples are asking you for the multiplicative inverse. This example here is asking you if this is valid. Is this true? So is 0 over 1 multiplied by 1 over 0, is that equal to 1? Same thing here, it's asking you, is this true? Is 4 over 3 times negative 3 over 4 equal to 1? And the last one just asks you for the multiplicative inverse. So pause the video, try them out, and then when you've tried it out, play the video and we'll see if you got your results correct. And pause the video, because if you just, math is something where if you just follow someone else doing it, it makes sense, it makes logical sense, because math is based on logic. But if you don't do it yourself, there's no way you'll know if you understand what's happening. It's two different worlds. It's like someone playing soccer and then you're saying, oh yeah, I've watched them play soccer, I know how to play. But then when you actually go on the field, it's a completely different thing. So you have to try out every example that I'm telling you to pause. Otherwise you're not going to get better. So don't lie to yourself. So pause the video, try it out. Okay, let's go through it. So what is the multiplicative inverse of 2 over 3? Well, we know that in order to get the multiplicative inverse of a fraction, we multiply it by the flip. So the flip would be 3 over 2. So we bring the 3 to the top and 2 to the bottom. So this would be the multiplicative inverse. So that one's done. Let's do this one. Now, as you see, there's a negative in front of the fraction. The multiplicative inverse still applies. You just have to multiply by the flip and then put a negative in front. That's one way of thinking of it. So the flip of this would be 9 over 5. And since the original fraction was negative, the multiplicative inverse should be negative as well. And you can multiply this out and make sure, and you can verify that this is the correct fraction. So this one is done. Now what about this one? It's just 2. It doesn't appear to be in fraction form. But one way to think of this is the exact same thing as saying 2 over 1. So this reduces down to 2. So you can always do that. You can, anytime you have a whole number or an integer, you can always put a 1 in the denominator. So now we just multiply by the flip. That would just be 1 over 2. So 2 over 1 times 1 over 2 is equals to 1. Okay, this question now is asking, is this true? Is the multiplicative, is 0 over 1 times 1 over 0 equal to 1? Well, this was a kind of a trick question, because even though this is true, that 0 over 1 is equals to 0, so this is 0 over 1, we can't do the multiplicative inverse because we know that we can't divide by 0. This is just saying 1 divided by 0, or 1 in the denominator. You can't have, sorry, a 0 in the denominator. You can't have a 0 in the denominator for a fraction. So this is not true just because this right here is undefined. So this is not true. It was a trick question. Let's do these two. So 4 over 3 times negative 3 over 4 is equals to 1. Now, again, I guess this is somewhat of a trick question, but because the original fraction was positive, it is the flip, but we also have a negative over here. So when we multiply this, we won't get 1, we'll get negative 1. So this isn't the multiplicative inverse. If I were to do this, for example, then it would be the multiplicative inverse, and we would have a result of 1, which is positive 1. So the trick was that one of the fractions was positive, one of them was negative. So it's impossible to get a positive result. And the final one, what is the multiplicative inverse of 9 over 3? So we just flip it. That would be 3 over 9. We multiply them together, and that would give you a result of 1.